Hey everyone, and welcome to Dakar, the capital of Senegal. We spent a few days here exploring the city, and we had a great time. But now it's time to leave West Africa and head to Europe. We'll be flying out of Blaise Diagne International Airport, which is about 27 miles east of downtown Dakar. This is the main international airport for Dakar and is named after the first black African elected to France's parliament in 1914. You can catch flights from here to cities across Africa, Europe, the Middle East, and even the US. And this evening we'll be traveling to Rome with ITA Airways. Check-in and security were fairly straightforward, and soon enough we were hunting for souvenirs in the duty-free. The departures area is pretty small. There's only a couple of places to eat and a few stores. But you can find some really cool artwork. The departures area has 3 lounges, but we found that only the Topkapi lounge accepted Priority Pass. This was by no means the fanciest lounge out there. It was a bit small and there was limited seating, but I was actually pretty impressed. The staff were very friendly and helped us find a place to sit. And there was a buffet which had a variety of hot and cold food available. You could also get complimentary drinks at the bar. We ate a few sandwiches and stocked up on some water for the flight, but soon enough it was time to head to the gate. Tonight we'd need to board the plane by a remote gate, so we had to walk to the other side of the terminal and head down some stairs to a waiting area. Unfortunately, the waiting area was fairly small, and we needed to share it with another group of passengers who were heading to the Gambia. Getting on the buses was definitely a bit chaotic, and it didn't help that the announcements were only in French and Italian, but eventually we figured it out. Tonight we'll be flying aboard one of ITA's brand new A321neos. This beautiful plane is under a year old and is outfitted with a 3-class configuration, and most impressively, its business class cabin actually has lie-flat seats. But we're not traveling in business or premium economy, but instead we'll be in the back of the plane in normal economy. There's 141 economy seats on this plane, and I'll be sitting in 50F. My first impression of this seat was that it was absolutely beautiful. They featured adjustable headrests, large 13.3-inch IFE screens, tray tables that folded down like this. There was also a decent amount of legroom, and the storage pockets were pretty big. The seats also reclined, and you could find USB ports in the IFE screen. I was also happy to see that there was a blanket and a pillow waiting for us. However, selecting beige upholstery was definitely a bold decision. As I mentioned, this plane isn't even a year old yet, and there were already stains all over the seats. Another downside was this box underneath the seat, which cuts down on your foot space. This ended up being a pretty full flight, which meant that space in the overhead bins became scarce, but the flight attendants worked hard to find room for everyone's bags. There were overhead air nozzles, but they did little to cool down the cabin, and unfortunately we learned that we would be delayed. The good news though is that we ended up only being delayed by about 20 minutes, and soon enough we were headed to the runway.
Alpha time to Rome Fiumicino will be 5 hours and 20 minutes. Thank you for your kind attention. Sorry for our delay. We should snake boots.
Originally this airport was supposed to open in 2011, but this date ended up getting pushed back to 2012, then 2014, and it finally opened in 2017 at a cost of approximately 566 million euros. This evening's 5-hour and 20-minute flight will see us travel across Morocco, skirt the Algerian coast, and then fly over the Mediterranean Sea before landing in Rome. Shortly after reaching cruising altitude, the flight attendants handed out earbuds to everyone. And then dinner was served about an hour later. My wife pre-ordered a vegan meal and she received this pasta. I ended up getting some pasta as well, but that's because that's all that was left by the time the crew reached me. The entree was ravioli with tomato sauce and cheese. This was served with a little dish of some more cheese and some cold cuts, and some bread and crackers. And there was this little dessert. I enjoyed this meal overall. I'm not sure what the other entree option was, but I was happy with this ravioli. After the meal was cleared away, I began to settle in for the rest of the flight. I found the seat to be pretty comfortable, but despite the overhead air nozzles, the cabin was very warm on this flight. I wasn't really tired yet, so I took a look at the IFE system. The touchscreen was very responsive, and there were a ton of movies and TV shows to choose from. The IFE system also had music and games available. This A321 also has Wi-Fi, and you can purchase plans to browse and stream from the web. A little bit later, I went to one of the lavatories. There's 3 small lavatories crammed in the back, and they were kept nice and clean throughout the entire flight. I was determined to try and get some sleep when I got back to my seat, but I found that difficult because of how warm the cabin was, and just when I found myself nodding off, a fight broke out 2 rows behind us. I'm not sure what the disagreement was about, but it did mean that we were wide awake for the rest of the flight. About 20 minutes before landing, the sun began to rise, and the cabin lights were turned back on. It's also worth noting that there wasn't a pre-landing meal in economy.
The gentleman came in, manager speaking to from that we are still down is in Toronto, which way for us with the land.
Near to Rome, Leonardo da Vinci Airport in Fiumicino, where it is now 19 minutes to 7 a.m. local time. We thank you for flying with ITA Airways and we look forward to Senegal on board in the very near future. Thank you. Arrivederci.
This flight cost €418, which includes €100 to check a bag, which was expensive, but the onboard service was great, and this was a beautiful plane. ITA are currently operating these new A321neos to Africa and the Middle East in case you'd like to try them out yourself. And I'd definitely recommend that if you have the chance. I really enjoyed this flight overall, and I'm hoping to try out their transatlantic service in the near future. Anyway, that'll do it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.